has informed me that the presentation will be between 5 to 10 minutes. So I'm going to take his presentation so we can get through the communications. So Mr. Clerk, will you please read in Communication 734?
Communication 734, Comprehensive Annual Financial Report and Single Audit of Federal Financial Assistance Program for the fiscal year 2012-2013 from Acting Legislative Auditor Lane H. Shibata, dated March 6, 2014, transmitting the above reports pursuant to Hawaii County Charter Section 10-13, and Communication 734.1, Acuity LLP's PowerPoint presentation entitled County of Hawaii 2013 Audit Results.
May I have a motion to close file on Communication 734 and all related communications?
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Curran, seconded by Councilmember Kanuha. Lane, Mr. Shibata.
Good morning, members of the Finance Committee. Lane Shibata, Acting Legislative Auditor. We have Acuity LLP here, two people from Acuity LLP to do their short presentation.
Thank you. And if you can both state your name for the record and then proceed.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the County Council. My name is Cindy Yee with Acuity LLP.
And I'm Don Nakamura. Good morning.
All right. On behalf of Acuity, we'd like to thank you for allowing us this opportunity to present the results of the 2013 audit. In your presentation, we'll be starting with the scope of services. Our scope of services for this audit included a report of the independent auditors for the financial statements, which are included in the county's comprehensive annual financial report. We issued an unmodified, or basically a clean opinion, stating that the financial statements were fairly presented and the audit was conducted in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards and government auditing standards. Excuse me. We also issued a report on internal control over financial reporting and non-compliance. There were no material weaknesses in internal control over financial reporting. However, we did note one significant deficiency relating to a carryover comment from the prior years relating to information technology.
Thank you. Is there a PowerPoint or no PowerPoint?
Because we were trying to do it within 5 to 10 minutes, and we know that you actually have the PowerPoint presentation in front of you, we weren't going to show it up on the slide.
Okay, point of order.
Yes.
The problem is the public can't see
Yes.
this.
Okay, so thank you, Lane. If you can just, as she goes through it, can you?
Would someone on the staff bring a chair over here for Mr. Shibata
Okay,
before he's
thanks.
throws his back
You
out?
can.
Okay, I'm going to take a 2-minute recess just to pull down the screen.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so if we can proceed with the PowerPoint, thank you.
Thank you. We also issued our report on internal control over financial reporting and on compliance. There were no material weaknesses noted in internal control over financial reporting. However, we did note a significant deficiency relating to a carryover comment from the prior year relating to information technology. We also issued a report on compliance for each major program, as well as the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. Based upon our major program determination, we identified that there were 5 major programs that were required to be tested, which are listed on that page. And there were no material weaknesses noted or material non-compliance that we noted over compliance areas. On page 3 are the required communications. In accordance with professional auditing standards, we are required to communicate certain matters to the governing body of the organization, which is the county council. Starting on page 4, we list the various required communications, and on the left side of the table and on the right side is our response to each of the comments. The first one relates to the auditor's responsibility under generally accepted auditing standards. As previously noted, we have issued an unmodified opinion on the county's financial statements, which indicates that the financial statements were fairly stated. We also are required to communicate the overview of the planned scope of the audit, which was communicated in our contract with the county dated back in 2010. We also are required to communicate any significant accounting policies, including critical accounting policies and auditor's judgment about the quality of accounting principles. We believe that management has adopted appropriate and reasonable accounting policies and applied them in the financial reporting, including the adoption of the following new GASB statements that were effective in 2013. These 4 new standards, GASB statements, did not require significant changes to the county's financial statements. On the next page, we also are required to communicate management's judgments and accounting estimates. And what we have listed here is a more difficult and subjective judgments and estimates relating to the audit, which included the allowance for uncollectible receivables, depreciation and valuation of capital assets, and calculation of certain liabilities such as the OPEB obligation, claims and judgments, as well as landfill payable costs. And management's estimates were evaluated as part of our audit and appeared to be reasonable. Another item relates to audit adjustments. For the primary government's financial statements for fiscal 2013, there were no adjusting or reclassification entries. However, there were 3 adjusting entries that were specific to the Department of Water Supply. Starting on page 6, there were no major risk and exposures noted other than contingencies and commitments disclosed in the county's financial statements. We noted no issues relating to the county's ability to continue as a going concern or other material uncertainties were noted. We are required to review any documents that contains the audited financial statements, and therefore we will review the county's annual report to ensure there are no material inconsistencies between the annual report and our audited financial statements. And there were no disagreements with management. We know of no consultations made by management with other accountants. There were no major issues discussed with management prior to retention. And there were no serious difficulties encountered in performing our audit. As previously mentioned, there were no material weaknesses. However, there was one significant deficiency, again related to the information technology matter. We also noted certain matters that we reported to the county council and management in a separate report called our Internal Control and Business Issues Report. We're not aware of any fraud or illegal acts. And there are certain material written communications that can be provided to you upon request. The next page lists the adjusting entries. So again, these 3 entries relates to the Department of Water Supply. And following that is our summary of uncorrected misstatements. So there are 2 items identified that were identified during the audit, but was not significant in terms of qualitative or quantitative, which would require management to record. Therefore, we're just disclosing this for your information. Okay, that concludes the presentation. There were 2 reports that I previously mentioned there that we had issued. One is a single audit of the federal financial assistance programs. And in here contains the listing of the schedule of federal expenditures, the major programs that we tested, and also the significant deficiency relating to the information technology matter. It also discloses the comments from the prior year, and again, the prior year comments related to the IT matter, and also a matter that dated back to 2009 regarding some expenditures. And the second report that we issued is an internal control and business issues report. These contains more like housekeeping matters, so matters that are considered more control deficiency versus significant or material weaknesses. And there were no new comments this year. These 3 that we have listed are carryover comments from the previous year, and we have included the status as to what management has done to address these matters.
Thank you. Is there any discussion, Councilmember Ford?
Thank you. I'm looking in, first of all, thank you for the report. I'm on page 4 of your PowerPoint. There are these statements 60 through 63, and you
Yes.
said there was some new stuff, but not significant. What kind of new things are you talking about?
For example, statement number 60, it's if there are any service concession arrangements that the county has with like a third-party contractor, it would require them to properly record it into their financial statements. So management did analyze it. We did review it. There were certain ones, but they weren't significant amounts, which would require them to go ahead and record it.
One of the things that I'm concerned about is when we put in affordable housing through a private developer, they frequently come in and they ask us to waive inspection fees and several other kinds of fees. Are those the types of things that would fall into this category? I don't know if that a service concession, I don't know what a service concession arrangement is. So if we are waiving fees for affordable housing internally, does that have to be reported someplace in these documents?
No, that wouldn't fall under this new GASB.
Okay. All right, this is all GASB then?
Yes, these are all GASB
Okay,
statements.
so strike my question. And then we have a significant deficit. At least I think it's significant. I don't know, $30+ million or something on GASB. Is the federal government starting to get tougher? Are they requiring that we report it differently? I mean, how is the fact that we have this deficit impacting these 4 statements?
Yeah, again, these wouldn't impact.
They wouldn't, okay.
Right, your
All right,
matter.
we'll move on. Now, on page 5, the management judgments, and the more
Yes.
difficult and subjective judgments are the allowance for uncollectible receivables. So would you explain that to us, please?
So management has to analyze, they review their receivables that are outstanding at year end, and they
Right.
determine if there are certain ones that may not be collected, and so
They
it's,
write them off.
yeah, well, consider setting up an allowance and perhaps writing it off upon approval.
Do you know what the amount for the uncollectible receivables is recommended to be in this county?
I guess, it depends at every point in time when you're looking at what your receivable balance is and determining what would be collected and what shouldn't be. But if you're looking at just at the year end, we can look at.
We can look at.
All right, so, yeah, so,
Okay.
All right, so,
All right, we'll move on. I know we have outstanding collectibles in water supply, I think water supply, don't quote me on that one though, even though I said it in public. Certainly in environmental management and in property tax. Are all of those fall into this category that there may be some amount that we write off annually as uncollectible?
Do we know what it comprises? Yeah. So when we're looking in the financial statements, there's total receivables of about 49 million, and there's an
For what
allowance.
what
It's on
department?
page 64 of the comprehensive annual financial report. So on page 64.
What am I? I'm not looking at that one. 64?
Page 64. And it's under receivables.
Okay.
So if you look, there's a gross receivables of about 49 million, and there's an allowance of 2.5 million. So there's allowance set up for general fund as well as some other governmental funds, and I apologize, we're really not sure exactly what that, like if it's related to real property taxes or.
So you don't know which
others.
department it covers?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean.
All right, so 2.5 is the 2.6 rough is the allowance for uncollectibles. Okay,
Right.
thank you. And then, let's see here. I'm going to go into one of your other documents, this one, I need you to explain this to me, because when I look at the federal, I'm on page 10. If you look at the federal program award amount, we would get, in the bottom of the page, victims of crime, they were looking at about 650,000. Okay. But the expenditures it says federal expenditures, 281,000.
Right.
So is it that we're getting this money, 650,000, but we have only expended less than 300? Is that what this is telling me?
Well, the award amount is not what you received, it's just the amount that you were awarded. and
Okay,
it
so
may
we have to
span-
do, what do they call it? We have to submit vouchers or something. Okay, I'm
For
seeing the nods.
reimbursement.
Okay, so we'll only get paid for what we actually do.
Right.
So that's what I'm looking at here.
And
Okay,
it may span more than a year. So
Okay, yes.
you may see this again next year.
okay, that's fine. All right, and let's see what else. And these, in the page 20, the significant deficiencies, that's Department of Water Supply.
Significant deficiency relates to the information technology.
Okay, because that's on the next page,
Yes.
21. And we have problems. We have problems in IT.
Yes.
Based on this audit.
Based upon our audit, there continue to be some matters that I think we had
Okay, so we need to
commented
address
last
those
year.
matters with them when the program reviews come up then. Okay, that's fine. The last thing is your internal control and business issues report. I'm not sure really how to handle this. This came under a confidential stamp. So does that mean that we can't discuss the problems identified here? Or do we need to go in executive session, or what do we need to do?
Yeah, I'm not sure why it was that confidential.
Well, it says on my, I guess they're worried about me unless everybody else got the letter attached to it. It's only me? Figures. It says confidential. So my question to somebody is, how do we handle this? Mr. Shabata, do you have any, come on up and talk to us?
Because it was given to us by him.
No, I think it can be discussed openly, public.
So the confidential, you're saying you want to retract the confidentiality
Yeah.
statement
Yes.
on that? Thank you
Yes.
very much. Okay. I'm on page 1. And for the record, if this is no longer confidential, then we need to have this put on our website, under the Laserfish, so the public can read this too. Will the staff, Mr. Clerk, will you make sure that happens? Thank you very much. Okay, when I'm looking at number 1 on page 1, there's an increasing trend of I'm quoting, increasing trend of real property tax receivables from approximately 9.5 in June 2008 to approximately 17.7 June 30th, 2012. Now, it has decreased by 500,000 because we've got, according to this, a new person to help us with the collections. But that far exceeds the 2.5 million or 2.7 million in the uncollectible receivables. So these are not considered uncollectible, we just haven't collected them. They're not written off, in other words. So more than $17 million is a control deficiency. What do you suggest that we do to fix this?
I think when we discussed this with management, we suggested that they assigned individuals to contact these individuals, send further notices to them, making a more, active attempt in collecting. And I know because of the declining overall the economy, they said that some of these individuals were probably a little slow in paying.
Yeah, well, okay. So maybe it's something that we should be... Okay, I'm going to wait to ask a bunch of questions on that one when we get to the program reviews. All right, and then the federal awards, the control deficiency in federal awards. We have a lack of monitoring in the Davis-Bacon Act compliance controls in the Clean Water State revolving funds. Both of these items, are the respective departments doing something to correct this, as far as you know? Sir, would you
Yes.
state your name again, please?
Don Nakamura.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Nakamura.
For the Clean Water State Revolving Fund matter related to Davis-Bacon Act, this had to do with the transition of an employee. So after, the person who was responsible for performing this requirement left that position, whoever the person that took over the position was unaware of the requirement, so
it kind of fell through the cracks.
it fell through the cracks.
Okay.
But that is, they are aware of that requirement now, so I believe going forward, they have been performing that requirement.
Okay.
And for the Federal Funding Accountability and Transparency Act for Office of Housing, that's another one where I think they were not clear about what the requirement was, but now they are, so they have started submitting those reports as necessary.
Okay. And then we have a letter from the Department of Environmental Management. They're going to further increase their collection efforts, and there's a recommendation by the director to allow for discontinuance of water service for non-payment of sewer fees. Are you aware of any place else in Hawaii that they actually do that?
Okay, I'm not positive, but I believe they do it in Honolulu.
Okay, so maybe Honolulu. Okay, those are all the questions I have right now. Thank you.
Any other questions or,
Oh, that's a good question.
Councilmember Willie?
Okay. I remember at another audit that you did, and you came in, had to do with the planning department, and that the issues related to the fair share program were somehow excluded out of that. I don't know would this audit cover what's going on with the fair share program in the planning department, or is that somehow outside of this? So, like collections I'm looking at.
So it would just really depend on when we're doing our audit, we cannot be testing 100% of everything. So it depends on the materiality of it. If there's big exposures or risks to the county, then we would consider that as part of our audit. So to my
So
knowledge,
was the
we
fair
did.
share,
did.
was the fair share included in this audit? Okay, so I always had issues with that. That would be something I wondered. Also say where fines with the planning department for violations, would those have been included in this and collection on fines, or where those fines were, what did you call them, where they're, I'm aware of some very large fines where then persons were allowed to, we're not going to collect them. So is there anything in terms of the planning department and violations, is that included in here, and collections on those?
No, we didn't perform any specific procedures over that.
Okay, so this is on your sort of select different areas that you will look at, and so some things get in here and some things get omitted.
Some are not, right, it's not included as part of our
Okay.
audit testing. Those
Okay.
sound to be more maybe operational type, where you'd have to have somebody look at it, like specifically related to those matters.
I see, okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Elegant?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. I'm reading the corrective action plan, and I want to get a better understanding in, when you say information technology, are you saying county-wide or the Department of Department of Information, IT? Are you
It's countywide.
county-wide?
Right.
So it's not specific to a certain department?
That's correct.
Okay, so yeah, that's why I was trying to understand. I wasn't sure. And from what I'm also reading is that the water, why is it, if it's county-wide, you have comments here, the general comment, water department's comment, county comment. Why is there a water department comment?
Okay, because so when we're doing the review over information technology, we're focusing on areas that are more specific to the financial statements. So there are many other systems that we did not consider as part of this review. The reason why we have the Department of Water Supply is because we do a separate audit of the Department of Water Supply and issue a separate audit report for them. And based upon our audit, we identified significant deficiencies over information technology as well. And therefore, because the water supply is included in your financial statements as a component unit, we disclose it separately as well. Or we combine it into this one comment.
And the general comment is coming from who?
So these comments are actually the comments from the county administration and the Department of Water Supply Management. So the general comment, I think, was prepared by the county administration.
And who's the county's comment?
So there's the combined comment. There's a combined comment for the county and the Department of Water Supply. So they had a general comment to the overall information technology
Oh, so
comment,
you're
and then they had more specific comments related to the individual items that relate specifically to the Department of Water Supply and specifically to the county.
I see. So the water department and the administration for the county work together for the general comment.
Yes.
But each one is broken down. Okay. So when I read this, and please clarify if I'm interpreting it wrong. It says that our information technology, the departments, and it doesn't specify which department, but we lack the follow-through of following information technology policies and procedures. And it says that we have not developed or updated IT policies and procedures. So I'm reading the comment, and after your audit, do we have an IT technology policy and procedure regarding financial practices?
So I think the Department of Information Technology is the one taking the lead on addressing the comment, and particularly on the county side. And they have been working on preparing policies and procedures for various areas within information technology. They had done some work in 2013 and prior, but there were still some areas that were not completed. So that's why we continue to have that comment related to that in this report. And they are continuing to make those or update those policies and procedures. So
Were they the one who initiated it, or were you guys, did your audit find out the problem first?
I know we've had this finding since 2010, which was the first year of our contract, and I think that they may have started updating their policies and procedures, but I think bringing it to their attention further through this report, I think they increased their efforts.
I see. And I know that there has been management changes in IT, so I can see the difficulty of getting everybody on the same page and developing a policy and procedure. I just gotta say thank you for the report, and I look forward to the next one.
Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Ford?
Thank you. I'm back in single audit. And I'm on page 21, and I do have to ask some questions. Under physical and logical security, the lack of formal security administration policy and procedures, I think this kind of dovetails with what Mr. Iligan was asking. But one of the items you identified was identification of employees whose access to system resources are not commensurate with their job responsibilities. Did you observe or find any evidence that the executive branch had employees that had access to the legislative branch's computer system?
That wasn't an area we specifically looked into, so no.
That's not something you looked at?
No, not specifically. No.
Okay.
These are more, this is more focused, as Cindy mentioned, more on the financial reporting systems.
Okay, the financial side of it.
Correct.
Okay, okay. Also, I want to go back to GASB for a minute. Is there a recommended maximum percentage of unfundable GASB payments? I don't know if I'm saying that right, but, you know, we have to put in we're supposed to put in X percent a year for our employee group. And is there some recommended amount? I know it's supposed to be 100%, okay, but is there some reasonable number that we could fudge a little on and not get into trouble? Or is there, it's just, tell me what you can. I'm stuttering here and I don't know how to even ask the question.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we've never heard of a certain threshold or percentage, so I don't think there is a recommendation from the GASB as to how much should be contributed. I think it really depends on each entity.
The reason I'm asking is I'm really worried. We're not funding it at 100%. We're not even, from what I see in the books, doesn't even look like we're close to it. And, I mean, really bad. So I'm worried, you know, this is an accumulating debt that we've got going. And I'm not sure what to, we can't do anything about it unless we pass legislation ordering it to be paid, but you find this with any other entities, that there's some reasonable number that's okay and some beyond which it becomes unreasonable, and you don't have that.
Yeah, perhaps if you look at maybe some other government entities.
Okay.
Financial reports.
Okay, that's it for me
Point of
today.
order. Brenda, just so the public knows, when you say GASB, would you mind just stating what we're referring to?
Okay,
Just so people
it's-
understand what you're talking about.
All right, hold on.
as
I'm going to
worry.
let the experts explain GASB. So either GASB is the retirement funds and that type of thing.
Sorry, well,
Explain
They
GASB.
just wanted you to give a definition of GASB.
just a GASB,
Yeah.
because so GASB is Governmental Accounting Standards Board. So it's a governing body that passes various government standards or statements that the government entities need to incorporate into their financial statements and ensure that they're properly accounting for their different accounts. So there are, each year, basically, there's new GASB statements that the GASB issues, and some are applicable to certain entities, some are not.
I was really referring to Ms. Ford, and just when she's saying how worried she is about this, that the public understands what it is
That we're
you're-
not funding our retirement.
Okay, that's all I just wanted
Yeah.
to
Right.
get that
Okay.
clarification.
Okay, thank you. Any other council member Elegant?
Or international? Standard.
Yeah.
It's a national.
Just curious. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, thank you very much for the presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of closing Communication 734 and all related communications, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, Communication 734 and all related communications are filed. Now we're moving into the order of resolutions.